Start the timer.
Started.
Welcome back to our 777 series. 777.
777.
That's how they like to say. Much easier. And we are going into part 6, our 6th most memorable location-independent experience over the 7 years that we've been able to be location-independent. So, this actually is something that, well, obviously, it's on our list of memorable experiences. We certainly won't forget, because this, as we mentioned in the podcast where we talked about the 7 lessons we learned in the 7 years being location independent, I said, and I think this is a great way of putting it, this was the first experience that gave us a little bit of breathing room when it came to being like, all right, we have some space. Yeah. We're not going to have to go and get regular jobs, at least not at the moment. It was the first kind of big win for us.
Absolutely. And kind of the first time that I felt like we kind of knew what we were doing a little bit more. And that was the launching of the first Paradise Pack. And obviously,
this was June 2014, just to put it in perspective for people. So June 2014, specifically June 5th is the day we're going to talk about.
Yeah, in 2014, yeah. So I guess we'd been location independent for a little over a year because we moved.
Almost a year and a half.
Yeah, we moved from Japan in 2012.
August 2012. So we were like coming up on 2 years, but as we mentioned, struggling hardcore. Right. The dark ages were those first year and a half, for sure.
So the first time I heard about the Paradise Pack, because this was Trav's project that he did and still does with Jason Moore from Zero to Travel. And I mean, I didn't really hear about it until a few months before, honestly.
Well, it didn't exist until a few months before. We came up with the idea in end of March, beginning of April.
Okay, yeah.
And then it launched in June. So it existed for 2.5 months before it actually was being sold, and that now to me seems crazy.
I can't believe that you guys threw it together that quickly that first year and that it was successful. But we were traveling at that point. We weren't in the U.S. We were going around Europe, our first kind of big 2-month plus trip. And
spoiler alert, that will come up on our memorable experiences. So that's another episode that you have to look forward to in the next couple of days.
I feel like here we are sitting, it might have even been when we were in Prague. So it could have been like beginning of May, like 1 month before the Paradise Pack. And you're like, yeah, I'm working on this thing with this guy, Jason. I'm like, who is Jason? Like, I've never even heard about this Jason guy. Who is Jason?
Jason's one who usually starts the timer on our Location Indie podcast. You're taking his role now.
And now, we're such good friends, and I feel like we've known him for so long, and it has been 7 years. Oh, we're six years.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just thinking, like, who is this guy? What is this project? What is a bundle sale? I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, so we get ready to launch this, and so it gave us breathing room. So that's always going to be memorable because it was our first real win for location independence, and the thing that we said, all right, now we feel comfortable like doing this over and over again. But the real reason it was memorable was also because of everything else around it. So I want to paint the scene of these few days. So the first time we did it, it was only available for 3 days, and how did we decide on that first week in June in 2014? Well, I didn't have any time frame for this, and but we did know that we had to do it fairly quickly because we didn't think it would be as much work as it ended up being. So we're like, we could do this in 2 months. So that was that was kind of the main reason. But Jason was getting married, and he said to me, wouldn't it be awesome if we were making sales? Like, how location independent would this be? And how much could we show like this freedom, this lifestyle, if we were making sales as I was walking down the aisle? And I remember thinking, oh my gosh.
This is a crazy idea.
You're crazier than I am. Like, are you kidding me? Like, as this is your wedding day, and you're thinking, I want that to be this, I think it was the second day of our Paradise Pack sale. I'm like, cool.
It's crazy. I mean, you two are a match made in heaven for your spontaneity and your crazy creative ideas. It works out really well.
Yeah, and so on top of that, he's getting married. So I'm like, all right, so we have 3 days that this Paradise Pack is launching. Now it's 7 days, but it was 3 days on our first year. One of those days you're going to be married. Okay, well, leading up to it, I was on a trip. We were on a trip.
And we were
going all around Europe, fast traveling, which, again, we're going to talk about in another episode because that was a memorable experience in its own right. So we're trying to put this together. Jason was like, well, 2 weeks before I get married, and kind of when we're going to be in the throes of getting everything really ready, I am going to go on a fundraising hitchhiking trip through Scotland for a week. Like, I don't even know what that means exactly. Essentially, they were
I forgot about this
him
part.
and like he was with a teammate, and there was like 10 other teams, and you had to go around Scotland, and you had to tick off some boxes, like you had to go to 7 specific places all through hitchhiking. And I was like, well, that sounds really cool. Even me, I was already married, so it's like, are you sure you want to do this?
If you had told me a week, 2 weeks before our wedding, that you were
Yeah.
going off, I mean, I probably would have been okay with that. But there's so much to do right before your wedding. It seems like.
I guess he didn't want to have to do it. So
Although you did have 2 bachelor parties, so I guess.
So he shirked those responsibilities. He went on this hitchhiking thing. Then he's getting married. Okay, so the day he's getting married, this is probably all of that is memorable. Like the umbrella of this first Paradise Pack is memorable, but it kind of all boiled down to this one specific day, June 5th, 2014, because that was the day he was walking down the aisle. And we had our friends who we had just gone on this European trip with, some of our best friends, Courtney and Callum, from Vancouver and Edmonton. They were with us in Philly.
Yeah, we had just come back from Europe. We're spending like a week and a half in Philly with our friends to show them around. They've never been to Philadelphia before. And yeah, it's the first day of the Paradise Pack, and our friends are in town. So, of course, we're just going to go and show them Philly.
It gives me like heart palpitations right now to think of all the things that I was doing while this was happening, while this
huge launch
was happening. But that goes to show you that you can do stuff and really, like, you don't have to trade time for money. You can be making money while you're doing other things. But it's just crazy to think right now what we didn't know, and kind of in a good way, naivety is bliss, because that's why we have this story. So we decide we're going to bar hop around Philly. And so we're sitting at this place called Alaspina. I think it's Alaspina. I actually don't like it at all anymore.
Well, we've only been once or twice.
We've been once or
but
twice.
But it was brand new. You know, and it had all these beers, craft beers.
That was, it was 2014, so craft beers.
Yeah, there weren't very many craft breweries in Philly, maybe 2 or 3. Yeah. So this had a lot of these cool beers on taps. We're like, let's go to this place. We'll have lunch here. And Trav's like just casually launching a huge project.
So I'm sitting there with my laptop. I get Wi-Fi up where there's 4 of us who are sitting at this table and getting pretzel. I remember we got a really big pretzel. We're having some beer. And I had learned about Facebook ads like the day before.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew.
At that time, Facebook ads were pretty new. I mean, I didn't know that was a thing that you could really do. Yeah,
this is 5 years ago. So I knew they existed, but I didn't know anything about them. But I thought we should try Facebook ads for this project, the Paradise Pack. And I'd gotten some advice from a guy I had just met a day before who did a lot of Facebook ads. And he just said, hey, here's how to get some low-hanging fruit. If you spend a little bit of money in Facebook ads and it works, run one ad, spend like $5, $10, $15, see if people start engaging with it. If it works, just scale up. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean? He's like, well, you could, any amount of money you spend, you'll get the same results. Like, I see it working all the time. And he was running hundreds of thousands of dollars of Facebook ads, right? So I'm like, okay, cool.
How did you meet this person randomly the day before you launched Paradise
Okay, so
Pack?
a friend of ours, Steve Cam from Nerd Fitness, was asking about credit card advice. And he said, I have another friend, Brian Moran, who is looking to do credit card advice. And he spends a couple $100,000 a month. And I'm like, what? And for his business. So I'm like, who is this guy? So I got on a call with Brian. He's like, I run Facebook ads. And it was the day before I was launching Paradise Pack. And I thought, wait, can I ask you a few questions? He's like, sure. Okay,
I do remember that now, actually.
Yeah. So Brian really just helped me out. I was like, dude, give me 10-minute version of what to do with Facebook ads. I don't have time to dive deep into it. We only have 3 days. And he told me that. He's like, all right, you can scale up. So I put a budget of like $50. And
you are so amped up right now.
And ran,
like, you are buzzing with energy. And it's so funny thinking back about this time in our life, because Trav gets so obsessed with things. So here we are sitting at this bar, and he's doing these Facebook ads. And, Courtney and Caleb and I are just like chilling. Trav's over here with his laptop out at the bar, like totally just geeking out about Facebook ads.
This is why location independence is fun, because you can do stuff anywhere and you can learn new stuff like in an instant and try to implement it. And we did. And so I have $50, and I'm like watching it. And I was like, oh my gosh, we just made a sale. Oh, we made like 2 sales with $50 worth of Facebook ads, which the product was like it was working out really, really well at that point.
For the conversion.
Yeah, for the conversions. And so I'm like, well, Brian told me I could scale up. Guys, what do you think? And they're like, I don't know. Just try it. They're like,
Just do it.
so it's
We're
like,
just drinking
okay,
beer. We're probably drunk at this point.
I'm like, all right,
just spend money, Trap.
I'll set it for $150. And then I'm like watching it. You're just literally hitting refresh on the Facebook ads, watching it happen.
Make a sale, which
and then
is
like
really
another
exciting.
sale happened. Another sale happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I was like, well, this is working really well. Brian said you could scale up. All right, what if I put it at $500? So I put it at $500 for the day, thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I have no money, like $500. But I keep seeing it working. And I remember Jason texted me. He goes, oh man, just walk down the aisle. Like, how's everything going? And I texted back like, really, really well. I have a budget of $500 for Facebook ads. He's like, what? I mean, he was super happy. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I will fill you all in later. It's working. And he was just like, okay. And he's like sending us pictures of his wedding, and I'm like sending him pictures of the money that's being made through Facebook ads. And I was just like, this is
pretty
ridiculous.
crazy. It's pretty crazy.
And we continued to bar hop that whole day.
Yeah, we did. It was such a fun day. We went all around Philly. We got to show our best friends our city that, and actually at that point in time, we hadn't done a lot of stuff in Philly, I mean, we live in the suburbs a little bit, and we were in college, we used to go down there every once in a while, but the more we had people come visit us in Philly, the more we wanted to show them around. So it was cool to find new spots that we'd never been to before. Also, like, Philly's getting cool new spots in the past 5 to 10 years. There's been so many like cool restaurants and bars. So it's just really fun to do that.
And maybe 3 or 4 bars, including one of my favorites in the city. It used to be my all-time favorite, McGillen's, the oldest pub, the oldest bar in Philadelphia. And every single time, I remember I'd put my backpack or I put my computer in my backpack, and we either walk or take a cab. And I was like so amped up, like, oh my gosh, can I check these again? We'd get to a new bar. I'd just open it up, get the internet, hit it, and be like, this is still working. Like, I was so worried that in that 10-minute cab ride or 15-minute walk that I'd come back and it would spend $500 and it wouldn't work. And it just kept working.
It's just really exciting to see a project that you've worked on. And this time it was only for 2 months. But now that Paradise Pack has been going on for years, it's a lot more time leading up to build this project. But, even 2 months on one specific project is a lot of time. And to see it being successful as you're just out having fun feels so cool.
It was crazy memorable to keep getting pictures of Jason like all throughout his wedding day, sending us like pictures like, oh, now we're at the reception, this and that, like having a great time, us having a great time on the other side of the world. And that's one of the beauties of the location independence too, is right, you build these businesses, people can be anywhere. And so here he is in rural, remote Norway on like the edge of the world, basically, because we went to where they had their wedding. It's beautiful. And he's making money and sales, having an impact through the Paradise Pack. I'm in Philadelphia, hopping around bar to bar, like all geeked out on Facebook ads, and yet we're working on a project together. And so I think that, to me, just it was encapsulated location independence, because not only was our first big win and gave us breathing room, but we were living the lifestyle as we were doing it. We were out exploring, hanging out, enjoying time with friends, trying something new with Facebook ads that we'd never done. And he was obviously having a great time at his wedding.
Getting married. And, I hadn't met Jason yet at that point. I met him the next month, actually, when he and his wife came to the U.S. for their honeymoon and went road tripping around. And he went to Portland for WDS, where Trav had met him originally the year before. And I met him for the first time then. So it's just great, too, knowing that you can make these great friendships and business partnerships and collaborate with other people doing location independent stuff. And that's why another reason why this is so memorable, because those first 2 years were so challenging. And we talked about that in our 7 lessons we learned podcast about being location independent. So to just meet somebody and have a project was successful the first year and you've done it multiple years in a row, like that has to be a memorable experience, even though it wasn't necessarily based around travel.
Well, for us, it wasn't super exotic travel like some of the stuff we're going to talk about, but it was like a weight was lifted off of me that day, because we had finally kind of made it in a location independent way. And it was such a fun day. The alcohol probably helped a little bit for me being like, yeah, just keep up in the budget. It's working. And it just really, as I said, encapsulated location independence. So that is our memorable moment number 6. Yes. We are counting down all the way to number 1. So we've got some other goodies coming for you over the next few days. Remember, 7 episodes in 7 days for the 7 day launch of the Paradise Pack.
Right.
Number 5, we talked about Paradise Pack here in the very first launch. Next episode, tomorrow, make sure that you tune in because we are going to be talking about the 5th anniversary of the Paradise Pack. And we did do that somewhere a little more exotic for us
Than
than Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
you'll have to tune in to hear that in the next episode. Thank you guys for listening.
Oh, perfect
There's the timer.
timing.
And
Good job.
we'll chat
Nice
with you soon.
job. Can't believe you're actually keeping to the time limit on
15
these.
minutes. Then we're out.